still ongoing.
You know, I think that the size of the business of Yahoo is not properly understood generally. I mean, I think it's because it's just such a very big business and so many users. When you look at that asset, what do you see that holds such value? Because the noise of the headlines and the concern over the breach, I think, tends to dominate the discussion. What do you see as the underlying asset and its value?
Yeah, you know, Corey, we live in a world today which there's hundreds of billions of dollars and there's billions of consumers coming online that are all digital first and mobile first. You know, Yahoo is one of the largest footprints in the world on the consumer side and has a very sizable advertising business and an e-commerce business in Asia. So from our standpoint, you know, when we look at this asset, the combined asset would have over 1 billion consumers, you know, do billions and billions of dollars in ad revenue and have a very big footprint in mobile, added with Verizon, which is very strategic. The Verizon opportunity with data and targeting and getting to mobile consumers is huge. So, you know, I think there is the breach information and the breach investigation, but from a business strategy standpoint, especially when you look towards the next 5 to 10 years, you know, the assets coming together represent a very unique opportunity, a very unique scale. And look, we've gone from company consolidations to industry consolidations, and you know, Verizon has been very forward-thinking, very clear on the execution of where they think the world's going in media and in wireless and mobile, and we're excited about it. We're excited about Yahoo, excited about the team overall, and there's this one issue that needs to get resolved, but I'd look through that from my side on the integration side to look at the strategy, and I think the strategy remains intact.
I think it's interesting also that the strategy of this consolidation is very different from AT&T to Verizon. When I look at what's happening on the Verizon side, I see you guys putting together a big pile of assets. You know, you mentioned TechCrunch and Yahoo Sports, if you will, and Pulse and AOL and all these smaller pieces of content, but a kaleidoscope of them. Whereas AT&T seems to be going big with Time Warner, HBO. That's their content play. I wonder if you could contrast those two strategies for me.
Sure. So first, you know, I know the Time Warner strategy well. I was at Time Warner and we spun out of AOL. Have a lot of respect for Jeff Bewkes and the team at Time Warner. No Randall and no AT&T. Don't know their strategy and don't know exactly what their business model is. But I do know the Verizon business model, and I know the Verizon plan and the AOL plan, which is essentially to bet on where the future is going, which is very strong connectivity with 5G and connecting everything and everybody with fiber and speed and wireless connectivity. And the second piece is really digital consumption of content, and you don't have to look far and wide to see how much the linear TV landscape has changed to a digital focused consumer. And I think if you contrast the strategies, you look out 5 or 10 years, that digital focused, mobile focused content strategy that Verizon has put into place, I think is a very strong strategy. And after spending 20 years in Silicon Valley in New York, and across the globe around the growth of digital, you know, we wanted to put our bet with Verizon because we think digital and mobile and the connectivity that 5G is going to offer is going to be a tremendous asset overall. So you have two big companies, two strategies, and a lot of room for tailwinds in the future of growth. So I think it'll be interesting to see where we end up 5 or 10 years from now, but feel very confident in what Verizon's strategy is, and the leadership at Verizon has done a very good job over the time executing long-term strategies. So I don't have any doubt that we'll be in the running and big player in the future.
That was AOL CEO Tim Armstrong. For more, we're joined by Bloomberg's Corey Johnson. Corey, a very confident-sounding Tim Armstrong, all focused on the value that still lies in Yahoo, despite this massive hack.
Yeah, and I think that's the underlying story here. You know, the market gets pretty upset and reacts, and Yahoo shares will sell off when, indeed sold off about 5% when the news of this second hack, which happened first, hit the tape. And I think that reaction was overdone, not just because Yahoo's core business is a small part of the value of Yahoo, but also, as you could hear from Tim Armstrong there, they see this as one of the few assets in all of the world that has a global internet audience of over 1 billion people. They look at things like Facebook, they look at the potential for Snapchat, they look at other things, and they think that with that content and with those users, they can buy their way into having one big global audience that they'll be poised to dominate when 5G rolls around, and Verizon will be in the right place for that.
Give us a sense of the M&A that we're seeing hit some roadblocks today. Of course, Donald Trump perhaps saying AT&T and Time not particularly close to a deal.
Yeah.
Where do we stand in the whole M&A front for 2017?
Well, I think it's really interesting. Those comments are very interesting. The news we broke that people close to him are still concerned about that deal. And the question is this going to be a let the market sort it out, free market, Goldman Sachs, White House that wants things to trade where they want to trade and wants businesses to combine as much as they want to combine, regardless of their impact on society and on business competition? Or is this going to be the Donald Trump suggested that he will actually review these things and look at the impact of these business combinations and be less likely to approve these mergers? It's really an open question right now. And I think it's important that this is a media story here, and that these are media companies that we're talking about. And there may be a different approach for the media. I mean, I think a lot of people would agree that more voices in the media is better than fewer voices in the media, and they might have a different approach to media than they would, say, other kinds of widgets and mergers along those lines.
And I have to see, of course, how 21st Century Fox deals with Sky over across the Atlantic and whether the UK comes up against that as well. Corey Johnson, always great to have your perspective. Great interview as well with Tim Armstrong. And we'll have, of course, plenty more from CES after the break. We'll catch up with HP's CTO, Shane Wall, on the company's refreshed gadgets and global aspirations. Next. And US stocks closed mixed on Thursday ahead of Friday's jobs report, but the Nasdaq ended the day at an all-time high, gaining 10.93 points, or 0.2% to 5,487, spot 94, narrowly beating the previous record. Now back to CES. One company touting new products at this year's trade show, it's HP. The tech giant has announced a bevy of updates and new gadgets, including the HP EliteBook 360, the ultra-thin convertible laptop, and the Sprout Pro, an all-in-one PC. Joining us now live from Las Vegas is HP Chief Technology Officer Shane Wall. Welcome to the show, and give us an idea of why we should be excited about basically new products in an industry that has been stagnating.
Well, I'll tell you, first, I'm super excited to be here at CES. It's always the best way to kick off a new year, and especially when you're bringing the great products that I think we brought this year. And as you know, we're about a year post-split, and we're in the middle of reinventing the company, and that includes some fantastic products that we rolled out here at the show, the EliteBook 360, X360 that we refreshed, Spectre X360, another great product, and the Sprout Pro. The Sprout Pro in particular is a refresh on our original Sprout product that I think is a super exciting addition to the lineup.
When you're looking at analysts' expectations, you dig into the Bloomberg, the IM functions, it's showing that revenue should start picking up for HP by 2019. How much are these products crucial to that?
Well, you know, maybe the best way to answer that is what we're trying to do is really look at what our strategy is and spread it out across three main vectors, right? So we got a core, a growth, and a future. On the core side, which is probably the shorter term that you're talking about, is we expect that to be our core personal systems and print business, some very targeted areas, some of the products we announced here at the show. And then in the growth area, we've got some super exciting things that are going to happen this year coming into 18. And that includes things like our graphics business, A3 with the acquisition of Samsung's printer business. And in the future, super excited about 3D printing and the opportunities that will provide in digital manufacturing.
Where is the demand coming for 3D printing? Because it's had a few false starts, but are we finally there?
Yeah, we are. So this year, we finally, we did launch and ship our first products here in October. Those were to some of our customers in Europe. And that product, I think, is going to be a tremendous hit. It delivers 10 times the speed of any product out there at 50% of the part cost. That's all done in an open ecosystem with substantially better parts. And we actually think that's the beginning of what we expect will be a true revolution. We're at the very beginning of what we think is a 30-year view of reshaping manufacturing into full digital.
You're a fascinating man to talk to because you've been an angel investor, you're deep within the startup community yourself, you've been a co-founder. Are you looking at the acquisition potential of these startups? Are you building them within your company to help harness this growth?
Yeah, yes, we do. We kind of do two things, I should say, I do from the CTO standpoint. One, obviously invest in the core technologies, HP labs that we have internally. But as the founder and the person who runs HP Tech Ventures, we're definitely on the outlook for, you know, what's that exciting new technology on the horizon. Now that could be through a variety of things. It could be through partnerships, and believe me, we've seen a ton of interesting companies here at CES. It could be through an investment that we do, or, as you mentioned, it may actually be through acquisitions that we look for ways to kind of, you know, complement what our existing technologies and go-to-market is.
But these new growth opportunities, they take R&D, they take money, and HP is a company that's having to cut costs at the moment, shed employees. Are you worried that this lack of this could impact investment at all?
I'm actually not, and here's why. Is one of the great advantages of the split is that we've been able to now focus on what our core markets have been in printing, personal systems, and then moving into the 3D side. And even as we look to streamline the business and make sure we optimize the costs, one thing we have not cut has been R&D. We've not only kept it constant, but what we've done is able to spread it out. So we're making bets in the longer term, and that gives us growth possibilities in the future.
Thinking outside the next 2 years, 5 years, let's go decade long. What is capturing your attention at CES? What is the moonshot that you're banking on right now with HP?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, always great here at CES to see some of those longer term things that are coming out, like, you know, what's going on in automotive today or Internet of Things. But for us at HP, what we've done is put together a vision that is 30 years in the future. And it's anchored around a simple notion we call blended reality, and that is a belief that the digital world is going to become much more inextricably twined with our physical world, and the two will reinforce each other. And then that leads to a set of investments that we do longer term. 3D, moving to digital manufacturing. There's the Internet of Things, which we all know about, but what we're super excited about is the Internet of all things, when everything, physical items that don't have technology in them today, are connected up to the Internet. We think the whole notion of blended reality gives us a tremendous opportunity to go pursue some of these new disruptive areas.
Well, come back and talk to us about the disruption you're having. HP CTO Shane Wall, thank you for joining us live from CES. And still ahead, we'll get IAC Chairman Barry Diller's take on the latest news that Donald Trump remains opposed to the mega merger between AT&T and Time Warner. That's later this hour. This is Bloomberg. few stories we're watching. Walmart is paying $70 million for a company called ShoeBuy. It's an online shoe store that will help boost the selection of shoes and sneakers on Walmart's e-commerce site, Jet.com. ShoeBuy competes with a more well-known site, Zappos, and was owned by IAC before this deal. Last year, Jet bought an online home furnishings store called Hey Needle for $90 million. Meantime, e-commerce rival Amazon is moving in the other direction, expanding its presence in brick-and-mortar stores. Amazon is planning to open a bookstore in Manhattan shopping center near Central Park. The company already has physical bookstores in Seattle, California, and Oregon, with plans to open more in Chicago and Massachusetts. The Manhattan store opens this spring. And speaking of Amazon, Ford is putting the company's digital assistant Alexa in its car starting this summer. The popular voice-activated assistant will let drivers order items on Amazon, listen to audiobooks, and get directions. The company's also working with BMW to integrate Alexa into its luxury cars. Still to come, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani and BlackBerry CEO John Chen are teaming up on a cybersecurity initiative as a controversial cyber hacking hearing takes place on Capitol Hill. We'll get their take on the state of US cyber defense next. And if you like Bloomberg News, check us out on the radio. You can now listen on the Bloomberg Radio app, Bloomberg.com, and in the US on SiriusXM. This is Bloomberg.
I'm Courtney Collins, and you're watching Bloomberg Technology. Let's start with a check of your first word news. U.S. intelligence officials say they are more convinced now than they were in October that Russia did, in fact, interfere in the U.S. election. The White House isn't characterizing the hacking of the DNC emails as an act of war, but says President Obama takes the issue, quote, quite seriously. Theresa May is scheduled to visit President-elect Trump this spring. She criticized him in the past, and both have clashed over former UKIP leader Nigel Farage. May sent 2 top aides on a secret trip to the U.S. last month as the UK tries to woo new trade partnerships. She plans to officially begin the exit from the European Union in March, roughly the same time as her U.S. visit. Angry mobs furious about skyrocketing gas prices sacked at least 250 stores across Mexico. Walmart was among the stores targeted in the wave of unrest triggered by a 20% hike in fuel costs. Iraqi officials say a car bomb detonated in a commercial area in central Baghdad, killed at least 7 people, the latest today in a series of deadly attacks. Other attacks across the Iraqi capital city killed 16 people. And the Pentagon's top weapons buyer has approved advanced development of a new generation of submarines. The 12 nuclear-armed subs could cost up to $126 billion. Global news 24 hours a day, powered by more than 2,600 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries. I'm Courtney Collins. This is Bloomberg. And it's just after 5:30 p.m. Thursday here in New York, 9:30 a.m. Friday morning in Sydney. I'm joined by Bloomberg's David Fickling with a look at the markets. David, good morning.
Good morning, Courtney. And in New Zealand, the markets opened up just narrowly up. Futures in Australia pointing up 0.2% today, and futures on the Nikkei in Japan down about 0.4%. Today, we're going to be looking at Australia's trade balance data. Analysts are forecasting that's going to narrow to its narrowest since 2014, 550 million deficit. That's due to some of the better prices for iron ore and coal, some of the key exports for Australia. We'll also be looking at India, which is going to report its preliminary estimate for first quarter GDP later today. Also watching Samsung Electronics does its preliminary annual results today. You may have sort of think it's bad news for Samsung after some of the stuff with its smartphones over the past year, but shares actually hit their 42-year high on Tuesday. So that's the main things we're going to be looking at today. I'm David Fickling. Bloomberg Technology continues next.
This is Bloomberg Technology. I'm Caroline Hyde. Back to the top story of the day. U.S. intelligence chiefs are standing firm in their conclusion that Russian government officials authorized hacking during the 2016 election campaign. At a hearing of the Senate Armed Services Committee, National Intelligence Director James Clapper and NSA Director Michael Rogers said the intelligence community's confidence in their findings is, quote, very high. Meantime, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani announced Thursday his consulting firm is partnering with BlackBerry on cybersecurity software. He and BlackBerry CEO John Chen spoke earlier to Bloomberg from CES and started by responding to the cyber hearing in Washington.
Well, look, hypotheticals are not good things to respond to. So let me put it this way. Cyber intrusion, cyber theft, cyber crime is the fastest growing form of crime. The director of the FBI, James Comey, says there are 2 types of companies in America. Those that have been hacked and know it, and those that have been hacked and don't know it. And the reality is this is becoming ubiquitous. And the reason companies and countries need us is because we can come in and we can tell you whether you have the best possible solutions. You may have solutions, but you may not have the best possible solutions. Second thing is you have to keep changing your solutions, because if you keep doing the same thing for 2 or 3 years, the hackers will figure out and they will get in. So all this whole dispute about the Russians and the Chinese, all it does is underscore the fact that we have fallen way behind in cyber defense. We're way ahead in cyber initiative, information gathering, information analysis, use of it for cars and whatever. Where we've fallen behind is it's like our defense has not been on the field. So we have to bring our defense up, and that's what BlackBerry, Giuliani Partners, and others that we hope to work with will be able to help us do.
I like the way you put that. We have to bring our defense up. Yet the CIA, the FBI, and our national intelligence agencies have assessed what they believe is hacking by the Russians. Why do you disagree with their conclusions?
I don't. I haven't seen their. I haven't seen their report, so I can't comment on it. These conclusions are always percentages. I've done a few of these, and these are percentages. What they will give you is the percent chance that it was, let's pick another country, that it was North Korea.
Right.
So I would want to look at that, and then I could give you an informed judgment on it. It's not a political issue. It's a technical issue.
Mr. Chen, let me put my question to you. What is your level of concern about cyber threats from foreign governments, even those that we may not have hostile relationships with?
I think very high, and we all know that. Just like Director Comey said, I never heard him said that, but I will quote him then. As the mayor said earlier, every company has been attacked, and I think that the attacker comes from all forms. Some of them a little bit friendlier than the other. I wouldn't say that we're not looking at each other's information. People are looking at our information. I expect that the other governments has been involved in this also.
Mr. Giuliani, do you believe the current administration did the right thing in announcing those sanctions last month?
I have to leave that to the discretion of the president. I'm not going to disagree with the president. I mean, he had the information. He acted on the information. I have no way of second-guessing what he did, nor will I do that. But I do want to underscore what John said. Hacking is ubiquitous, meaning it's happening all the time, and you have to have defenses against it. It's also important to catch it early. For example, the hacking of OPM, where, 20 million identities were taken. They were in OPM for 10 months, 11 months, 12 months. That's why they were able to get millions of identities. Had they been caught in the second week or the third week or the fourth week or even the fifth week, you could have stopped it. We can do things like that. And that's why, that's what we're going to be trying to do. Not only stop it, but catch it early, like cancer. If you catch it early, you have a much better chance at curing it, and you don't lose 20 million identities.
That was BlackBerry CEO John Chen and Giuliani Partners founder and former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Coming up, SoftBank's Masayoshi Son pledged $50 billion to create 50,000 jobs in the US. The first company to receive an investment from the fund, satellite internet startup OneWeb. We'll catch up with the CEO next. And this weekend on Bloomberg Television, we bring you our best interviews from the week, including our interview with former CIA Director Jim Woolsey. Cybersecurity concerns surrounding Russia are front and center after the Senate cybersecurity hearing. We'll get his take. Tune in this Saturday for the best of Bloomberg Technology. This is Bloomberg.
President-elect Trump has a plan to make America great again. A major stake in this plan, bringing jobs back to the United States with the help of SoftBank's chief executive, Masayoshi Son.
He's just agreed to invest $50 billion in the United States and 50,000 jobs. And he's one of the great men of industry, so I just want to thank you very much. Thank you.
On December 19th, the first investment was made to fill 3,000 positions. Satellite startup OneWeb said it raised $1.2 billion from SoftBank and existing investors, with a Japanese technology company providing the bulk. Since then, SoftBank's Vision Fund has been drawing attention from other tech titans. This week, Apple said it was planning to invest $1 billion in the fund. Qualcomm also said it will participate, with terms still under discussion. And according to a person familiar with the matter, Foxconn and Oracle's chairman, Larry Ellison, also intend to contribute. But there's still time for SoftBank to lure in additional investors. The $100 billion fund is set to close at the end of the month, so we'll wait to see who else throws their hat in the ring.
And joining me now is OneWeb CEO Greg Weiler from Palm Beach, Florida. As mentioned before, satellite startup OneWeb is the first company to receive an investment from SoftBank's Vision Fund. Welcome to the show. And 3,000 jobs over 4 years. We're talking engineering, we're talking manufacturing. Is the talent ready and present to be hired in the US?
I think it is, and we're getting some great applications. We're growing fast. We have a lot of job openings on our site, and we're continuing to look for more people. But there certainly is a lot of talent here.
Yeah, and looking abroad as well, would you be concerned in any way potentially about restrictions on visas, or is this really something you can add to jobs in the United States?
Well, we are global, so we have jobs around the world. In the U.S., on occasion, we do have issues with visas. It's nice to have more easy transport of talent across the borders, that's for sure. But there is quite a big, a good amount of talent in the U.S. We've got a great university system and a lot of great kids coming out of college now with just an amazing skill set.
How much do you sort of thank Donald Trump or indeed Masayoshi Son for this investment at the moment? Do you think it was really inspired by Donald Trump's call for jobs to be back in the United States?
Well, backing up, saying we raised about $500 million last year, and we put a plan together to raise $500 million this year and $500 million next year. And we're building a satellite system which will provide very high-speed internet access, eventually gigabit-speed internet access, to the other half of the world, the 4 billion people who are without access. So this is a very large program, and it's very much related to bridging the digital divide. That's our mission by 2027, and to connect every school of the world by 2022. So Masa had joined us and looked at our mission, really embraced it, as many of the governments around the world have done, and saw how important this was really for humanity to allow everybody to have access to the world's information. And his contribution, his investment has been extremely helpful. He met with President-elect Donald Trump. He increased his investment, and that's great as well. And so we ended up with a $1.2 billion investment now, which was more than we had expected when we went out to raise funds, and puts us in a really great position to accomplish our goals.
I mean, this is a really amazing vision that you have in terms of connecting those who are unconnected in the most far-off, far-flung places, one that you've dedicated much of your life to. In terms of why now? Because other companies have tried to do this, sending constellations of satellites into near space. Why is the time right?
Well, things have changed a lot. So, I mean, you're right. There's been a lot of failures. It's a path littered with failures. There's thousands of people who envision doing something like this. There's only a few that raise some money and very few that get built, and frankly, only one or two that actually were built and didn't go bankrupt. And one of them, actually, I was fortunate enough to have founded, called O3B Networks. And so it's very hard to do these things, but if you keep a very good eye on what the mission is and who the user is and how we're going to affect that change, and you have to have it in your gut. It's a mission as much as it is a business. And so between the technology advances, the microprocessor advances, between our incredible partners like Qualcomm, who is just, they're the leader in in building the chipsets for cell phones for handover between cell towers at extremely high speeds. I mean, we're handing over 100,000 separate internet connections a second. And so their chipsets have been really invaluable for us to be able to accomplish these goals.
But Greg, how do you square that awkward circle of a mission and also a business with a profit? Because you're working with telcos to price this. Are you sure that the right people are going to be able to gain access, that your utopia occurs?
Well, we're just trying to enable access, and the utopia may happen after that, but we have our mission. On pricing, what we're doing is building a system at a scale that allows us to provide services at a very low price to meet the $2 a day type income that the people in the really the lower LDCs, the lower 50 LDCs have. And so we've designed a system to accomplish those goals and do it profitably, which means that for all the other markets, the markets in the developed world where they can pay more, and the markets, of course, where you think about mobility for aviation and maritime, for instance, they'll obviously have a higher price, and so the whole thing squares together to be actually profitable and also accomplishing a very important goal.
Awkward question, but on balance, from what you've seen, President-elect Donald Trump, positive for technology and for your sort of businesses, or negative?
Well, so far so good. I think the market has spoken, and we'll obviously the future we'll see, but so far so good.
OneWeb CEO Greg Weiler, we thank you so much for your time and joining our show, and check in with us on how the mission is completing. Up next on Bloomberg Technology, IAC founder and chairman Barry Diller joins us from CES in Las Vegas. This is Bloomberg. Donald Trump is said to remain opposed to the mega merger between AT&T and Time Warner, and the stock sank on the news. He believes it would concentrate too much power in the media industry, according to people close to the president-elect. Now, media mogul Barry Diller is the chairman and senior executive of IAC, a media and internet company comprised more than 150 brands and products, including dating site Match.com and video service Vimeo. Bloomberg Technology reporter Alex Webb caught up with him at CES in Las Vegas and asked him about Trump's position on the big deal.
If your stock is subject, more than for a day or two, to his comments being a negative drag on you, then you got a very lousy business, and it's all, it's all today's ridiculous silliness.
There was some other merger efforts last year in this similar space. CBS Viacom obviously fell apart. Do you see any likelihood of that deal being resurrected?
No, it could have never happened anyway.
Oh, really? Why do you think that?
Well, because if you're a CBS shareholder, if you're on the CBS Special Committee representing the shareholders, you are not going to buy Viacom at anything but a bargain sale price.
Okay.
If you are on the other side on the Special Committee, you're not going to sell it at anything but a premium. So it was never going to happen anyway. So I don't know why everybody made noise.
How would you try to turn around Paramount?
How do I try and turn around Paramount?
Well, is there a way it can be turned around?
You make good movies, it turns. It ain't hard.
You just don't think that movie
business is the simplest business, compared to what's going on here and compared to the changes in the world. I mean, narrative storytelling on a big screen, or a small screen, but on a big screen is very simple. You have a story, you tell it, and people either like it or not. There's no tech involved. There's no, it's quite binary.
I mean, on the flip side, of course, a lot of tech companies are increasingly looking at the content space. Netflix is the obvious example. Amazon has made huge strides in this space. There's been a lot of talk about the prospect of Apple getting into the space. Do you think that companies need to own content to be able to get into them? And why is that?
Because all of the content, look, if you own content, you want it distributed everywhere. So these tech companies who are engaged in distribution, which is what Apple is doing, it's what Amazon has with Prime, et cetera, they're essentially distributors. They can buy anybody's content. They don't need to own directly the content. Now, if they're going to actually begin to produce content themselves, then that's another thing. But, that's something you have to really have not tech aptitude for. You actually have to have an ability to make editorial choices.
The Vimeo signed a deal with Lionsgate recently.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear sort of how that came about, actually.
Well, we're developing Vimeo into a platform for everybody to use, and we've gone to many, many people. And one of the most recent places we went and said, why don't you put your programming on Vimeo, on our platform? And they said yes, and we're going to do much more of that.
So are there a few deals impending that we need to keep an eye out for?
Yes.
Can you give us some sort of time frame?
No.
Weeks, months?
No. Look, we're very much now in business.
Okay.
So weeks, months, years, we're going to be at this. And we think because we have an independent platform that is actually not owned by any of the totalitarian companies, that we have a niche and a chance that because of that independence, we can barrel through.
Does that mean that, now quite often when you talk about the online video services for TV series, films, you tend to talk about Netflix, Amazon. Is the hope then people go Netflix, Amazon, Vimeo?
Of course.
So it's going to be a direct competitor to those guys?
Well, I think an indirect, because the truth is, Netflix is always going to be, unless they monumentally screw it up. They have such size worldwide now that I don't think anybody is going to be close to Netflix. But that doesn't mean they take essentially the market share of the world. I just don't think anybody will be as large, but I think there'll be plenty of room for niche programmers and programmers that have, many, many millions of subscribers, just not to their level.
What's your take on the way that the cable TV bundle is developing? Is it dead? Are these new approaches killing it?
Well, they're not. I don't think anything really kills anything like dead. But look,
perhaps unraveling.
You've had for 40 years or so, you've had cable being the only place that you could get a bundle of programming. That's ended. Now you can get, all you need is an internet connection, and you can get a la carte, you can get little bundles, etc. So cable just has to evolve, and it cannot, its base of warehousing everything and selling it for one package price is gone.
What do you think then does work? You mentioned a few possibilities. What are you particularly bullish on being the model which does go through?
Go through where?
Well, the successful way for the cable package to evolve.
No, I don't think that. I think that the cable operators are essentially now in the data transmission business and no longer really in the program business. They used to be in the program business. It's very healthy margins. Those have decreased as programmers have asked more and more money. Now, when you have so many different alternatives, they're in the data business. That's their competitive edge.
Does that explain some of the rationale behind the AT&T Time Warner deal? There has been a certain amount of skepticism, aside from the Trump element, of course, but from an operational perspective, skepticism behind it. I don't know if you think there is a logic behind that deal.
Well, I just don't think there's a lot of industrial logic behind it, but because I don't think that a data company needs to own a content company or a tech company, data company, AT&T needs to own content. It can buy the content at fair market prices. No content, I think, in this area is going to be particularly exclusive.
That was IAC Chairman Barry Diller and Alex Webb of Bloomberg Technology. That does it for this edition of Bloomberg Technology. Still to come. More from Las Vegas as CES continues. Bloomberg's Betty Liu will speak with T-Mobile CEO John Legere. You do not want to miss that exciting conversation. And tomorrow we'll hear from Fitbit CEO James Park, as well as the presidents of Sony and Baidu. Remember, all episodes of Bloomberg Technology are now live streaming on Twitter. Check us out at Bloomberg Tech TV, weekdays at 5 p.m. in New York, 2 p.m. right here in San Francisco. That's all for now. Have a great evening. This is Bloomberg.